Yo, Bachi 2007 back at you with another one. We're going to get right into this foolishness. This came out about a month ago, and we're just going to let it play, and we're going to have some commentary. And let's look at who this panel is. Of let's look at who this panel is that's speaking about why men aren't dating, and of course, let's see what the tenor and tone is in discussing this issue, and let's see if we might detect just a smidget of bias.
This week on Morning Mika, the kids, and actually adults too, are not okay.
Oh, I think a clip from Jennifer Lawrence's movie that just was out. We're going to skip.
That was Jennifer Lawrence in a scene from No Hard Feelings, finding a bunch of teens and 20-somethings glued to their phones at a house party. It underscores a troubling reality right now. A growing number of younger Americans aren't dating. They're not hanging out. And no, they're not even hooking up. For so many women who want to date men, dating has become a total nightmare. And there are a number of reasons why.
And we'll soon see that all of those reasons are men's fault, of course, because she does her research from a popcorn movie and from women's TikTok videos. Of course, we've seen these videos around the web. We know what these bats are talking about. And of course, it's all about what men aren't doing and how men aren't stepping up. But stepping up to what and for what is the question.
I'm Mika Brzezinski here with Simone Sanders Townsend, Huma Abedin, and Jen Psaki. So I have heard from a lot of young women who want to date young men that there are none. There are no guys. They're trying to connect. They often use dating apps, but find a total lack of connection. And it seems that the men they are meeting don't really share the same priorities.
That's correct. We don't share the same priorities of tarantula eyelashes, paying the way for strong, independent women who don't need no man, but they want to spend all of a man's money and resources to give absolutely nothing in return, to run their mouth and to be nasty little pheasants who think that we should want them in our lives to get absolutely zero benefit. You're absolutely right, Mika. And this is a wonderful panel she's put together of a diverse cross section of young, dating age, non married people. No, okay. At least two of these people that I know of are married, and none of them are young, and none of them clearly care anything about the dating market, and they're all one gender. And look at the where they're coming from. But then we got Wakanda Forever chick over here. I mean, just come on. It's just ridiculous. Let's go down to the comments and see what the people think about this illustrious panel that they put together. All right. So this commenter says, a man can't find a date. He's an incel. A woman can't find a date. Men's fault, of course. Learn to have accountabilities, ladies. Absolutely. The panel is dangerously delusional 100%. Okay, so why is a panel of middle aged women having this discussion? Why aren't the young men in this demographic invited to be a part of the discussion? Let's see if we can get some answers from the rest of the community. Okay, but how many podcasts do we have for that? Beside the point, see, this is always a deflection, or anything is a deflection. Again, you're having a panel discussion on national television. You're talking about a podcast. We're talking about nationally watched television. I guess maybe this did air on television as well as it being online. So you're talking about MSNBC versus podcast, and for the national major broadcast that's broadcasting to an audience that is not in these podcast spaces or men's spaces online. And this is going to be their only information that they're getting about the subject. And the answer is young men are the problem. They're the problem and they're the whole problem. So says middle aged hags who don't know what the hell they're talking about. So this guy says, or this person, I'm not sure if it's a guy or not, says lazy journalism. Finding young men and women to present on the show takes time. Easier to interview one another. Yes, these are just a bunch of MSNBC hosts. I know all three of them are hosts of MSNBC. I don't really know her. She got people in her own office together. And it's like, yeah, we'll just interview each other about our same opinion from our same demographic. These are all well-to-do, middle-class, liberal women uh who are not middle class, upper middle class, making big income boss chicks. A bunch of boss chicks got together and decided men are the problem. Surprise, surprise. Who would have ever thunk it? They're supposed to be journalists. Okay. Or young people, period. Oh, wait, that would destroy their narrative. Yep, that's exactly what the problem is. Getting young people, or any men, or anybody of any different demographic together would wreak havoc on their pre chosen narrative, which again is women can't find any men. There are no men available. Where have all the good men gone? All that kind of garbage. They've been pushing that. Where have all the good men gone since the 90s when I was a kid? That exact phrase has been around for over 30 years. Okay, so it says they should have done a panel with four young men and young women and asked about it. Four middle-aged women whose childhood and teenage years are nothing like Gen Z's discussing this issue is out of touch, of course. Hey, like and subscribe and all that good stuff. Like, subscribe, notification bell, and we're gonna get right back to it. Y'all remember this classic one? Let's listen to this lady complain about dating market. This is a strong, independent woman who didn't need no man, probably participated in hookup culture, had fun while she was young. Of course, she has a t-shirt that says narcissism, so we know what kind of chick she is. Every man who doesn't do exactly what she wants to do, wants him to do, and doesn't behave like a woman because he's a man and thinks like a man is supposed to think and wants to lead a relationship. They want a leader. Then when you lead, you're controlling. We can tell she's definitely one of them. She's walking around. She went and bought a whole T-shirt about narcissism because they love to misuse that word when they're the biggest narcissists. But let's listen to her complain about men and dating.
What kind of world do we live in where a normal, regular girl cannot find just a regular guy out here to date? Because these guys don't want a real woman. They want a fantasy. They want to live in this fake fantasy world. They would rather jack off to some screen, to some robot, rather than actually deal with a real human being and what comes with that.
Yes. Yes, they would, and for good reason. This is what they won't do. Don't feel sorry for this girl. Don't think this is some sweet, innocent chick. Again, she's wearing a narcissism. It says narcissism, the other pandemic. This is her mind. This is one of these gender studies chicks who thinks the world revolves around them and their emotional needs, and men just exist to serve their needs. And when men won't bow and comply because women were told that everything's about them, they are the table, the world should revolve around them, and men only exist to serve their material and emotional needs and sexual needs with these women these days because they just off the rails. Uh, because she can't get what she wants, she can't force a man to bow to her modern gender studies mind frame of how she wants to run men and run a relationship. Then she gets on the internet and cries about it. But there's no reason to feel sorry for her. But what is really striking while she has this narcissism T-shirt is the lack of self-awareness, which is a hallmark of narcissism, where she doesn't reflect on herself and reflect on other women. Why women are so hard. There's no For a man, there's nothing on the planet better than coochie. The kitty cat is the best thing in the world. When men rather pleasure themselves than to have to spend time with you in order to get some cat, they rather forego it just so they don't have to be around you. I to tell you something about you and your fellow sisters, but there's no self-reflection. Y'all are so terrible The best thing in the world to a man, he'd rather not have it than to have to suffer you insufferable broads. But y'all don't see that. You don't even consider it. Now tell me who's the narcissist. Y'all really don't get it, but 9 out of 10 of you are really insufferable. But let's get back to MSNBC because they weren't done with the ladies bashing. They brought a man in and a professor to try to bolster their BS.
Interact with people, they say the men that they want to meet just don't share their ideals.
Yes, and that's y'all's problem. They think that men are supposed to think like women who take all of their cues from feminism and gender studies ideology, which is regressive, which is anti-traditional, which is anti-family, which is anti-male, which is anti any kind of order or societal structure. And we're supposed to follow behind batty brain women and their dictates as to how human relationships should go, which again, the way they think it should go is you come to the table and you owe them everything. They come to the table and they bring nothing. They are strong and independent and make their own money, but you are supposed to spend all your money on them, and they're supposed to spend all of their money on them. And you're supposed to be the leader, but you can't tell them nothing because they're strong, independent women, and you need to pay for everything and be traditional, but they're modern, so they're not going to lift a finger in the house because that's slavery. You're right. No men agree with this. No men who have anything in them as a man agrees with this foolishness. But the problem is not the men, the problem is y'all.
It's partly because so many young men are spending their lives also logged in, overly influenced by a flood of whatever you can find online: porn, video games, toxic masculinity. Who needs the real thing when you can get something better, and I put that in quotes, by scrolling?
Again, here you come with the gender studies ideology, calling men toxic, think you're going to get something out of it, continually insulting. And this is what women have done my entire life. Some of y'all aren't that old. I'm a little bit older than a lot of y'all listening to this. This has been going on, I know, through the 90s, but really before then, non-stop. All men are dogs. I've heard this since I was a little kid. This is all that they've ever said. Where have all the good men gone? All men are dogs. What do you need a man for? This has been decades of this crap. Now men have stood up and are talking back, finally. We had the simp generation who just sat there and took all of it and accepted it and keep and like, oh yeah, my wife's so I gotta go. I would come out and hang out, man, but I gotta talk to the real boss first, see what she has to do. All that sip talk. These old men be tough, man. But it's been all of that kind of foolishness, and they think men are supposed to want to be around them. And we already talked about yes. What's on a screen is better. Video games are better. Hanging out with your bros are better. By yourself, jacking it to a screen, if that's what you got to do, it's better than suffering these insufferable women. Again, the fact that they don't contemplate the necessity to do some internal reflecting when you are just just insufferable and so intolerable that men rather do that than to be with what men like to be with the most, which is to at least be inside of a woman, if nothing else. And there guys who are saying, I'll even forego that if getting to that means having to spend time dealing with you. That should say something to you women.
Here's what Scott Galloway, professor of marketing at NYU, told us on Morning Joe about some of the reasons why men are becoming like this.
I think you have the most talented, well-resourced people in the world and companies trying to convince a young man that he can have a reasonable facsimile of life in his basement behind a screen. You don't need friends. Go on Reddit or Discord. You don't need to get a job. Go on Robinhood or Coinbase and trade crypto and stocks. You don't need to go through the rejection and the expense and the humiliation and working out and having a plan and humor and showering to get a romantic relationship. You have YouPorn. So we have an entire generation, especially of young men, who are out home sequestering from society and missing out on what it means. There's a reason comedies are 2 hours and not 15 minutes.
Again, men are all the problem. And a lot of men are the problem. Feminine-minded men like this who try to misuse an intellectual disposition from academia to come down and I was trying to find the clip earlier where Mika talked about men needing to earn women's affection to pair with where he just said you need to shower, you should be out here having to shower women with gifts. This is not the 1950s. This is not where virginal young women or women who might have been with their high school sweetheart and had one body on them when you met them at 21, 22 years old were living in their parents' house until they were going to move into your house. These are women who are strong, independent, have told us they do not need us. Not only do they not need us, we need to do everything for them and bring everything to the table. While they're not bringing anything to the table, they are the table. Furthermore, not only do they not need to bring anything financially, even though they're earning finances, they're not at home in their parents' house, not able to earn income the same as men do. These are women who have incomes, don't want to contribute to their family, but on top of that, they're not going to lift a finger in the house because that's slavery to cook for your own family, to nurture your own children, to look after your own home that you live in and keep it clean, to carry a plate to your husband who you're requiring to carry the load of the bills, but you can't carry a plate to him. And your nasty anti-man disposition is supposed to make a man want to shower you and think you deserve to be showered. You do not. You do not. That's what men are telling you. And they're going to stay at home with their video games and their hand and their lotion because it's better than dealing with most of y'all. And until these women do some self reflection and accept this fact and do something to change their insufferable ways, well, then they can just continue all their tears and their crying. And if you could do something for me and continue hitting that like button, I need y'all. Appreciate y'all. We're going to get up out of here on this one. Hibachi 2007. I'm out.